Trump campaign. His testimony was forceful, but as you saw, it wasn't his job to develop evidence of collusion. It was to give intel, and he said as the time he left, he hadn't seen any proof of collusion. But the investigation must go on. Those are his words. Joining us is CNN counterterrorism analyst Phil Mudd. Phil Mudd, to those who do not want to believe there is any collusion, they say John Brennan just said it. There is no proof. They've been investigating this forever. There are leaks all over the place, and no evidence of actual collusion. This is a hoax. The president's right. Your response?
Boy, Chris, it's painful that you're the first person I speak with in the morning, but let me give you a clear picture
when you laugh,
of the answer to this.
I know I encourage him because I think it's funny.
But when he turns it on you, then all of a sudden Mudd
me.
will only be on the show after
Never
this.
gonna happen.
Chris, let's watch this over the next day or two, because Sean Spicer and the White House have consistently misportrayed what intelligence officials are saying. Let me give you a clear distinction between intelligence and investigations. The intel guys are going to get the intelligence. That is, for example, intercepts of Russian communications showing at most one half of the story, and more than likely significantly less than one half. They do not have visibility, that is, intel guys like the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and the CIA Director, into the significant part of the investigation that's conducted by the FBI. Interviews of American citizens, looks into their travel, into their financial records. So, of course, the intel guys are going to say, I saw some smoke when Russian people talked about their interactions with the Americans, but there's no way you can look at one half of the conversation and draw a conclusion about collusion.
One more
quick comment. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand exactly what you're saying, and of course you're right. But it ends up just being frustrating to people listening because it devolves into this debate over semantics, intel versus evidence. And in fact, it got a little heated with Congressman Trey Gowdy. So let me just play this for you, and then you can respond. Watch this.
Did you have evidence of a connection between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors?
As I said, Mr. Gowdy, I don't do evidence.
I appreciate that you don't do evidence, Director Brennan. You and I both know what the word evidence means. It's a really simple question. Did evidence exist of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors at the time you learned of 2016 efforts?
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign.
See, Phil, that's what's so frustrating. Did collusion exist? That's the burning question that everybody wants answered. And then Brennan says, well, I know of contacts and communication.
Well, Trey Gowdy ought to have his ass kicked. He knows the difference between intelligence and evidence. Let me tell you something, Allison. If you're an American citizen and the National Security Agency collects intelligence, that is, intercepts of Russians who report what you've said, do you think it's fair to go to a court and say that's evidence that you did something wrong? That's why the FBI is going to take a year or more to investigate this, because the American citizens involved in this have a right to have evidence presented in a court beyond a conversation that a Russian official reports. In my world, this distinction is black and white. There's a hard line. I know it's frustrating for the American people, but I hope they don't want evidence to be perceived as something that a Russian official says, and that's it. You can be convicted on that.
Okay, you win. You win.
He does. And I'll tell you what, we're seeing it this morning, even here. People are saying, well, look, Brennan said he saw no proof. He did not say that. He said, I don't know. And that's a huge distinction. And while it may be frustrating, a lot of things in life are frustrating, Phil Mudd, especially when they're complex. And if you cheapen them, wind up distorting what they actually are. But at the end of the day, what do you make of the suggestion that I think is a little bit more forceful? There have been so many leaks. Everything we've learned from leaks thus far, and yet nothing about any real collusion. Why?
Boy, I don't think there have been significant leaks related to investigation. Do we know a heck of a lot about FBI interviews of the American citizens involved in this? How much do we know about what they've said behind closed doors? Has anybody flipped? How much do we know in detail about financial transactions? As someone who's witnessed these investigations, I've seen embarrassing leaks, but they're not leaks that get at the heart of what the FBI is learning. That said, every time I see a door open here, whether it's General Flynn resigning, whether it's the FBI saying that they've opened an investigation, whether it's repeatedly intel officials, including the Director of National Intelligence and the CIA Director, saying that they saw substantial intelligence about contacts between Americans and the Russians, whether it's American officials saying that the President of the United States tried to get them to knock this down, every door that opens closes. And the walls around the President and the White House, I think, continue to get more and more tight. There's nothing that suggests there's no fire here to me.
Mudd, well argued. We will have to wait and see how Camerata digests that beatdown you just gave her on her own show.
Yes.
But always polite and doesn't make fun of moi.
He certainly didn't say what he said about Trey Gowdy about you. That's for sure.
Not publicly.
Thank you, Phil Mudd.
Thanks.
Thanks to you as well, our international viewers. For you, CNN Newsroom is next. For our U.S. viewers, we have new information about the investigation into that man.